Hello and welcome to Illuminations with Tiina and Fi. I'm Tiina.
And I'm Fi.
Hi Fi, how are you doing?
Very well today, Tiina. Thank you very much.
Good. So we're continuing our own kind of wonderful series with exploring purpose a little bit and looking at how does purpose kind of fit in with the knowing yourself, self-awareness and your own kind of wonderful. Now, I don't know what you think about this, Fi, and I'm sure that you'll tell me. But I'm thinking purpose. It is our reason for being here in this experience in this earth. If I introduce it like that, what would you say to that?
Yes, that, as you know, purpose is quite a central key of my work, and that's what I would say. That's what I always say to my clients or friends. I've done purpose with so many people. It's not about what you do, it's actually the reason that you were brought here to be on this planet. It's around, and I can see it now linking into Unkind and Wonderful from how you helped last time to understand that. Because if you are in line with your purpose, and that's what I work with people to look at, so we discover their purpose, uncover their purpose, and then we look at where is that being met in their life. And if you are in the flow, that's really for me what purpose is when you're in the flow, and it's when time just vanishes and passes. And so you are, am I right, Tiina, then being your own kind of wonderful?
I would say, in my world,
Yeah.
yes, then you would be living your own kind of wonderful. But I don't believe that living in our purpose is always effortless effort. I don't always think that it's easy. The whole picture of it might be easy, but there's details of it that might be very, very hard and that we might very much resist doing or being. Maybe you find that your purpose in life is to teach, and the way you've chosen to do it, or to be a teacher of some sort, and you've chosen to do that with children, right? Because you're in flow when you're in that classroom with those kids and they're learning stuff and this kind of interaction and you're loving it. Part of that purpose of then being a teacher of sorts does mean that you need to do things that you might not like, but they're kind of part of that being that in your life. So I absolutely agree that it's being in flow, but in flow time flies, and it's not always, if I think about your and my purpose and what we're doing, it's not always easy or, just flowing or.
I think we have a slightly different view on purpose.
Okay, interesting.
So for me, being a teacher is not purpose. Me being a teacher is just what you do. For me, I would work with someone to uncover what they're doing, being in that moment, in that classroom, where they are actually being in the flow. So what is it underneath that? So for me, whenever I'm in flow, whenever I'm in my purpose, it is easy. It's never difficult when I'm in purpose. Because my purpose is I've taken out the actively, I inspire others to be in a resourceful state. That is not a challenge for me. When I'm actually doing that, being that, in it, it's no challenge. What I think you're talking about from my perspective is how you then, when that purpose, you're being it. Because that, for me, being a teacher is not purpose, it's what you do. And that, for me, is the difference.
I'll just interject very quickly. I think it's not the purpose. What I was trying to say is that that's how you channel it. You've chosen, you are being something, but you've chosen to channel it, through that. So if your purpose is helping people be in resourceful states, you've chosen to do that in a way. So you do it by your being a light worker, you know, and the way you do it is by talking with people, you know, having conversations and doing exercises and, you know, kind of being that. So for me, it was like, okay, so teacher was like, okay, so you've got a purpose on this earth, but how you channel it is by doing that.
Agree. Sorry, we're falling out for the first time. I don't agree, because to me, when I'm in the taxi, I'm often, when I'm on the bus, I'm often, it's when I'm in purpose, when I'm in, it's not, why my work is great and I love it is because every day I'm generally in my purpose. I'm it. You know, it's not about even channeling it. It's about it. It's it. It's the essence of me. If you cut me in half, that's what you would find all the way through me. And when I'm in that flow, when I'm in purpose, when I'm in that being, then everything is effortless effort. You know, it's even something now I can't even stop because it just keeps happening. You know, I often leave people and they say, I hadn't thought about it like that. Thank you, taxi drivers, people on the bus. And it's incredible. It's not about how I do it. It's about just being it. It's much deeper. It's not about doing. It's about being, which is interesting that we've never talked about this before, because I find what people. So, for example, you're right, because I worked with a client whose purpose was amazing, and when we unpacked and uncovered his purpose kind of like was about activism and equality, and it was quite a deep purpose without saying what his purpose was. What was happening was he came to me for careers advice. Well, what we started to look at is how could he bring being that purpose more into his work, and he found ways of doing that because his resentment in work that was growing was because he was not being his purpose. He was being something different. And so that started to help. But also he realised that in the rest of his life, if we look at the wheel of life, he actually wasn't being in purpose at all, ever. And so he was starting to look at how he might be in purpose outside of work that would help bring that kind of richness and flow back in. He was very much in purpose when he was younger, but kind of like had come away of being him. That's the identity bit, I suppose, in some ways. It's part of that element. So does that help a bit? Or mine?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So when you work with, would be quite interesting, I think, for viewers to know. When you work with people to find that their deep purpose, then that identity, that total being, regardless of what you do,
yes,
that being all the time,
yes.
How would you kind of uncover that with clients?
I go through a process, which actually on the website, you know, I did it with Sherry Bevan, Confident Mother. I went through this, uncovering this. So you kind of look at points in life when people are in the flow, and usually people can come up with them very easily. And it's a process of extracting language, words, description, gradually going through a process of grouping them, bringing them together. And then I think what is significant is then when I work with them to put the purpose together, because there's a format for putting purpose together that really helps. So it's not to make it a secret, because we have it actually in our book. We've got a whole activity around purpose. It's that putting it together, I think, is where having someone else, because purpose can't be humble. And that's when I work with people. And I remember you saying, gosh, in the book, you know, do people do this? And my experience working with people is that they often want to dumb it down a bit, because purpose is quite amazing. And often everybody's purpose is so different. I mean, seriously, so different. And it's so amazing when people say it out loud and we've worked on it, and it so triggers something in them. it's very emotional, both for me and for them, because it's like suddenly I remember, I'm sure Marky Bobs won't mind, he would be happy to talk about this, he puts it up on my website. It suddenly explained everything to Marky Bobs about why all these questions about himself. He got it. He finally got it, because his purpose helped him get that. It's quite magical. Does that help?
It does. I'll just say, so the website Fi is talking about is her own website, fifian.com. Marky Bobs is a guy who works with marketing, but really heart-centered, I would say. And he's been a guest on Illuminations before. But yeah, you can find him there. So that.
Yeah, he's on Conscious Creatives. But I worked with him for a while. We did some trade-off work together, and he wanted to get this purpose, and it helped him with that. So the process is quite straightforward in many ways, which we write in the book. It's that final stage of putting it together that sometimes I think having someone else who's kind of done it a few times, it helps. But people do go and put their purpose together and they send it to me, and then I have exchange with them and put it right. Can you remember, did we do your purpose ever, Tiina?
We did.
Can you remember it?
We did, and I can't remember the process totally. This few years back.
Yeah.
And I don't think we got to the core of it.
Okay.
Yeah. At that point.
Yeah.
Obviously things happen, but I think purpose probably stays the same. Once you know your purpose, and that's the kind of.
Yeah, the only thing I did is I took out the actively, because it's just so me now, I've realised. I put the actively in because it just felt appropriate at the time, but now I realise. So purpose it's really quite playing big time at the moment. Everybody is talking about knowing your purpose. In all the books I read, people talk about purpose, and it's interesting, different definitions of it. So I'm not surprised you and I had a different definition, because it's all so very different. And people do think, I've heard some people talk about, it's what you love when you do something. And so people can choose their own definition.
Of course.
For me, that's what works for me. When I work with people, it works for them. And what we look at is being in the flow, when you're in flow, and particularly with business owners, when they can be in their effortless effort place. It doesn't mean that you have to, if you're going to be a business owner, you work hard at being a business owner. It's just sometimes people are in doing something in a business, and when you work on purpose, it's quite incongruent to what they're actually being most of their day. And so it's coming to terms with that and what that means then. So can they find it within other elements of their life that compensates for that? Or is it that they have to slightly, look at what they're doing so that it can be more in purpose? So you can work around it. But yeah, so I'm not surprised that you and I have different definitions.
Yeah. No, I think for me, it's the point I was trying to make there a little bit was that I don't want anybody to think that everything, if you find your purpose, if you find what you want, and what we talked about last time, self-awareness, and that suddenly then life just becomes so easy, that every element of life is just like, wow, I'm just walking on clouds. There's always going to be things that come in, that maybe challenge your way of being, people who get angry about that, and you have to deal with that in ways, and you get off track. You kind of think, oh, but that's what I want, and you kind of go, hang on, and this doesn't feel good. Actually, so I'm very aware of people walking away thinking, if I find my purpose, then everything's going to be just brilliant, every second. And of course, then we can talk about choice, and everything can be brilliant all the time. But, it was interesting. I was listening to Gabrielle Bernstein, who is spirit junkie and has gone on a huge kind of spiritual journey and teaches that. And then when everybody thinks that she's doing so well and she's, you know, she's earning good money, she's inspiring people like she wants to do, because money is not one of her drivers, and she's written these books and life seems good, and suddenly she hits rock bottom, you know, and suddenly she realizes there was something else there that needed to be dealt with, you know, and then she had to go and deal with that. So, you know, I think it's important to know that it's not always plain sailing. Anyway, we're out of time.
We are indeedy.
But I'd like, because purpose is such a big one for you, I'd like you to end this with something.
So basically, what people, if they want to get a hint around, you know, what purpose is to look at times when they get lost in the moment, when, you know, it does feel that there is some flow, time whizzes by. They're the real key. And there's something around looking at when those moments are and looking for a pattern underneath those, you know, words that would describe each of those and what you bring, because it's also about your uniqueness. Purpose is about what your unique bringing to the world is. So that's what I would just get people to start looking at, you know, and obviously, you know, go on my website, or when we get the book out, have a look or read about purpose from others and start to put it together. But it's just about, you know, when are you in flow? When are you in a place where time whizzes and you go, oh my goodness, and maybe start to look at when those situations arise and see what might be under those, you know, what are you bringing to that situation at that time.
Brilliant.
Yes.
And I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah.
It's a soft way in, you know, just start noticing, you know, and just, you know, either notice up here or write it down, you know, kind of, okay, and then, you know, noticing those patterns. I think that's good. Excellent. This has been a really interesting one. Thank you very much for that conversation. Next one is nuggets.
Yes, indeedy. Nuggets.
If you like this, share it with others. Others might like it too. And we will see you next time.
See you next time, Tina. Thank you for that.
Bye.
Bye now.